Okay, let's dive right into this, because today we're looking at one of the most incredible and honestly kind of covert stories in modern science. In this explainer, we're tracking this wild journey of how a team of researchers at DeepMind took something as seemingly trivial as classic arcade games and used them to crack one of humanity's absolute most complex biological mysteries. It's this brilliant story that totally bridges the gap between retro video games, cutting-edge artificial intelligence, and literally the fundamental code of life itself.
So, how exactly do you solve a 50-year-old biological mystery? Well, imagine a master key, a key that could unlock entirely new cures for cancer, or engineer enzymes that, no joke, literally eat the plastic polluting our oceans. That key? It's predicting how proteins fold. You see, proteins are the machines of life. They build everything in biology. They're these strings of amino acids that fold up into incredibly intricate 3D structures. And for half a century, scientists knew that if we could just predict exactly how these proteins fold based purely on their sequences, we could change the world. But despite the efforts of thousands of brilliant minds, nobody could crack the code. It was just way too complex for the human brain to compute.
And that brings us to a really pivotal light bulb moment. Picture this. Demis Hassabis, the founder of DeepMind, is just a 12-year-old chess prodigy competing in this grueling 10-hour tournament in Liechtenstein. After playing to absolute sheer exhaustion, he gets tricked into resigning a game that was actually a dead draw. Feeling totally sick to his stomach over all that wasted effort, he looks around this giant hall filled with hundreds of the absolute smartest international chess players. And it just hits him. All this immense human brain power was basically being wasted on board games. He thought, if you could somehow plug those 300 brilliant brains into one unified system, you might actually have enough computational power to solve something like cancer. And as the quote here says, that thought stuck with him.
Now, as you can see from this timeline, Hassabis didn't exactly take your traditional route into AI. After his time as a child chess prodigy, where he was the second highest-rated player in the world for his age, by the way, he spent the 1990s as a video game designer. He famously worked on the hit game Theme Park. And while he was there, he was programming autonomous AI behaviors, literally making digital park guests react to their environment in these incredibly nuanced ways. From there, he jumps over to Cambridge in the late 90s to study computational neuroscience, looking directly at how the human brain actually works so he could find inspiration for machines. By 2010, this totally unconventional blend of competitive gaming, simulation design, and hardcore neuroscience became the absolute bedrock for founding DeepMind. So, here's the absolutely crucial point. What were they actually setting out to build? The answer is AGI, or Artificial General Intelligence. Now, if you think back to 1997, you probably remember IBM's Deep Blue famously beating Garry Kasparov at chess. Huge watershed moment, right? But here's the catch. Deep Blue could only play chess. It lacked any real cognitive breadth. DeepMind's mission wasn't just to build another fancy chess calculator. They wanted to build a general learning machine, a system capable of being dropped into a totally novel, completely unprogrammed situation and just figuring it out, much like you or I would. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how they actually achieved that. To build this human-like cognitive flexibility, DeepMind knew they needed a safe, simulated gymnasium, and they realized pretty quickly that classic video games are the absolute perfect training grounds. Think about it. They're essentially these neat little virtual universes. They have strict physics, extremely clear objectives, and most importantly, safe boundaries. DeepMind basically created these environments where a childlike AI agent could just be dropped in to experiment, mess up, make mistakes, and learn without any real-world consequences whatsoever. Let's look at exactly how this reinforcement learning process worked, step by step. The AI was given literally 0 rules. It wasn't told what a paddle was, what a ball was, or even how to play the game at all. Step 1. You drop the agent into the environment. All it sees are raw pixels. Step 2. You give it a single overarching command. Maximize your score. And step 3. You just let it experiment through pure trial and error. When they applied this exact process to the classic game Breakout, the AI started off, well, terribly. But after a few hundred games, it was playing like a human expert. And then, after a few hundred more, it discovered a novel, completely optimal strategy all on its own. It started digging a tunnel around the side to trap the ball behind the wall. It basically hacked the game using first principles. No way a programmer explicitly taught it that. But of course, once the system mastered basic Atari games, they had to escalate the complexity. They needed to force the AI to develop deeper, much more human-like reasoning. So they moved on to the ancient board game Go. Now, Go was a game previously thought entirely impossible for computers to master, mostly because there are more possible board configurations than there are atoms in the observable universe. It requires actual intuition. After conquering Go, they took an even more massive leap and moved to the video game StarCraft. Unlike a board game where you can see all the pieces on the table, StarCraft is totally different. You're dealing with hidden information, complex real-time reactions, and this continuous chaotic flow of decisions. It forced the AI to learn really fluid, reactive decision-making in highly unpredictable scenarios.
And this brings us to a truly fascinating evolution in the tech. You've got human-guided training on the left and self-taught on the right. Earlier, AlphaGo completely shocked the world by beating human champion Lee Sedol, famously playing move 37, a move with a literal 1 in 10,000 probability of ever being played by a human. But the thing is, AlphaGo was initially trained by mimicking 100,000 human games. So DeepMind decided to strip away the human data entirely. The result was AlphaZero. AlphaZero was given absolutely zero human knowledge. It learned chess completely from scratch just by playing against itself. Check this out. By the time you'd have your morning coffee, it was just playing randomly. But by dinner time, it was the strongest chess entity in the history of the universe, developing these entirely alien, self-taught strategies that blew grandmasters away.
And this brilliantly illustrates the geopolitical shockwave of that breakthrough. This self-taught evolution wasn't just some neat science experiment. Observers literally called it a Sputnik moment. Just like the Soviet satellite launched the space race back in the 1950s, this massive AI breakthrough woke up nations all around the world. Everyone suddenly realized, kind of all at once, that a new world-altering force had officially arrived on Earth. And just like that, a global AI arms race was launched. But here's the thing. DeepMind's goal was never just to win games. The games, they were merely the proving ground. Now it was time to fulfill that original childhood vision, aiming this massive, newly proven computational power directly at that 50-year-old protein-folding mystery. So they formed a highly specialized strike team, officially transitioning from mastering digital realms to cracking the biological code, and they called this project AlphaFold.
To actually prove their system worked, they entered CASP. You can think of CASP as essentially the Olympic Games of protein folding. It's this incredibly rigorous global competition where computational predictions are compared blindly against actual laboratory gold standards. And here is a super vital takeaway from this explainer. DeepMind initially failed. Yep, they threw standard machine learning at biology, and the problem simply laughed at them. The biological data was way too scarce, and the physical structures were just too complex. They realized pretty quickly they couldn't just treat biology like a video game anymore. They had to teach the AI the actual laws of physics. So the strike team went back to the drawing board and completely rewrote their entire pipeline, deeply integrating real biological domain knowledge into the AI. And wow, did that pivot pay off? That rewrite led to one of the greatest scientific breakthroughs of our time. Once AlphaFold was perfected, they didn't just solve 1 or 2 proteins. In a remarkably short amount of time, they mapped out 200 million protein structures. To put that into perspective, that is essentially every single known protein in existence. And the best part? They open-sourced the whole thing for the entire world. They literally handed researchers across the globe the biological blueprints needed to tackle infectious diseases, neurodegenerative conditions, and even environmental collapse. It was, without a doubt, a monumental victory for AI-assisted science. But we really have to pause here, because we've definitely reached a profound ethical crossroads. While AlphaFold is an undeniable triumph, observers in the source material note a really striking parallel to J. Robert Oppenheimer and the Manhattan Project. There's this very real danger that creators can get so caught up in the pure excitement of the science, the thrill of solving the puzzle, that they might not think carefully enough about the moral implications until the box is already open. Unleashing artificial general intelligence is going to require an unprecedented level of caution. Because there are severe real-world risks associated with AGI if it isn't stewarded responsibly. I mean, look at these points. We are looking at the potential for autonomous weaponry and wars that could execute so fast they're actually beyond human comprehension. We're talking about exponential increases in surveillance capabilities and highly advanced disinformation campaigns that can seamlessly manipulate human psychology. When you are dealing with stakes this incredibly high, that famous Silicon Valley mantra of move fast and break things, yeah, that is entirely inappropriate here. You really absolutely cannot afford to break the fabric of society and just try to fix it later. Which leaves us with this totally chilling, provocative final thought. Think about this. If we received an email today saying a superior alien civilization was scheduled to arrive on Earth in exactly 5 years, there would be emergency meetings of every single government on the planet. We would be in global overdrive. Yet, we are effectively building that exact same level of intelligence right now, right in our own labs. AGI is coming, and this explainer leaves us with an incredibly urgent question. Are we actually ready to coordinate globally to ensure this technology elevates humanity rather than subduing it? It's definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep questioning the world around you.